Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favour in his sight, and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put under his authority. So it was from the time that he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had, except for the bread which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." But he refused, and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. Now then, can I do this great wickedness, and sin against God?" So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her, to lie with her, or to be with her. And it happened about this time, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and ran outside. And so it was, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house, and spoke to them, saying, "See, he has brought in to us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to me to lie with me. And I cried out with a loud voice, and it happened when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and went outside." So she kept the garment with her until his master came home. Then she spoke to him with words like these, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came in to mock me. So it happened, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside." So it was, when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, "Your servant did to me after this manner," that his anger was aroused. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and he gave him favour in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. My name's Arthur. Thank you for joining me as we've read together from Genesis chapter 39, as Joseph is prepared for the task that the Lord has for him. But it doesn't look very much like a rise when he ends up in the prison. Joseph had evidently committed himself to God, and this commitment to God is the thing that protects him from doing evil in this place. The Lord blesses Joseph because of this commitment. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man. He's still only a young man, in his early 20s, having been taken from home when he was 17. Because of the Lord's blessing, and because of Joseph's diligence and carefulness, it soon became obvious that he was a great administrator. He was a great worker. So Potiphar put everything under Joseph's authority. He was overseer of everything. And when he did that, the Lord added further blessing to Potiphar, blessing his home and the field. But Satan came into this scene with a trap for Joseph, in the form of Potiphar's wife. She was evidently not satisfied with her husband's affections. The King James Bible calls him a eunuch, which may simply mean an official, but probably means that he was incapable of fathering children. And so, in that case, she would be a frustrated wife. But here was a handsome young man, and so she had eyes on him. But Joseph would have nothing to do with her. How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He had learned righteousness from his father. In Gentile societies, these kind of things are tolerated and often part of the religion. But in God's economy, faithfulness in marriage is very important. So she hounded Joseph day by day, and on one occasion he was in the house going about his business. Generally he avoided her, but this day he got caught out. She grabbed hold of him and tried to force him to come with her, but he was going to have nothing of it and fled. Paul tells Timothy, flee fornication. There are some things in life which we must flee, because if we don't, we will be caught up by them. Joseph had learned this lesson early, and he fled, even leaving his garment behind. And so she framed him with the garment, claiming first to the men of the household, he tried to attack me. And then when her husband came home, this Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came in to me to mock me. She accused Joseph and blamed her husband. No wonder Potiphar was enraged that this man who he had entrusted with everything he had should not be satisfied with the responsibility he had, but should seek to take advantage of his wife. He did not realize that this was all a fabrication, and that the sin was on his wife's side, not Joseph's side. And so Joseph was committed to prison. It was the major prison where the king's prisoners were confined. This was a prison for people who were important people, but who had offended the king. But we find that when Joseph was put in the prison, that the Lord showed him mercy. The Lord blessed him even in the prison, and he was soon recognized by the keeper of the prison as a man of integrity, one who could be trusted, one to whom the keeper committed the care of the other prisoners. And so we find Joseph getting a lot of experience in different kinds of administration, keeping his hands clean in the process. In the king's prison, he would learn much about the politics of Egypt and get to know many of the key people who were in favour and out of favour with the king. And the keeper of the prison was quite content to entrust everything into Joseph's authority, recognising that the Lord was with him. So we don't find Joseph preaching at these people. We find him simply living a godly life, and the Lord being with him, bearing testimony to his righteousness. And of course, that's the way that we should live in whatever circumstances we find ourselves, even if we are working for somebody else, to walk with integrity, to do everything to glorify God. In Corinthians chapter 10 verse 31, whatever you do, do all to the glory of God, giving no offence either to the Jews or to the Greeks or to the church of God. Do all for the glory of God. And in Colossians, whatever you do in word or deed, do it in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God, the Father, through him. And again, whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord, and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ. So Joseph lived for the glory of God. He lived for God, and he operated in the name of God, not being ashamed to confess that the Lord was his God.